Hello, my little Liebfrau Milches, and how are you today? Welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine, and joining me on the show today is an old centaur friend, Brian from Phoenix. And Brian from Phoenix, how art thou?
Not too bad. It's been, we're in the middle of monsoon season in August, so it's been very Tampa-like humidity.
Yeah, that's unusual. Yeah, it's been 109, 110-degree heat index in Florida. I mean, just absolutely nutso. Um, So I don't know exactly what in the hell's happening, but everybody's burning up. I think maybe we're just living in hell and we just don't realize it. That's, I wonder that sometimes because it's like, God, this is a messed up world. Uh, the Cleveland Browns have finished their preseason game one, so we'll be talking about that, and we'll also a little later in the show be talking about the Guardians hanging on by literally their fingertips to try to get momentum back and get the Twins and the Royals off their back. The Guardians will be in action tonight at 6:40, only about an hour or 40 minutes after the end of this program at home against the Chicago Cubs. So
Mm.
that's always something to look forward to. It's really funny the takes that we get from local Cleveland media. It's always foolishness talking about, you know, I think my faith in Dorian Thompson Robinson is back, and it's like it's like didn't last year teach you anything? You know, what you have here are two seasoned quarterbacks in Deshaun Watson and Jameis Winston. And then you have two clones of one another in essence. You've got Tyler Huntley, who is a weaker armed guy who uses his legs. And you've got Dorian Thompson Robinson, who also uses his legs, who's slight of frame, but has a little bit better of an arm than Huntley does, duking it out for the number 3 slot. And yeah, Dorian Thompson Robinson looked good. He completed 78% of his passes in week one, but against who, against what, and why?
Yeah,
That's what we're
yeah,
really
exactly.
talking about today. And there's one overwhelming point that I want to make about what I saw is all we saw was a Green Bay team that hasn't changed its scheme and system and started their starting quarterback. And the Browns defense was consisted of the vast majority of second and third unit players who were struggling to make the team. And the
And some
defense,
of them were struggling to make it through the game.
yeah, I'll tell you there's two problems involved. First of all, the offense is working on a whole new system in Cleveland, whereas the Green Bay Packers are just repeating and coming back and building on what they have done for years. And so even the second and third string players were running through the Browns players because the Browns players are only used to going in walk pace, going through workouts. They're not accustomed to playing this type of scheme. They were in our backfield far too often. The offensive line was breaking down and giving up too much penetration. And defensively, the Cleveland Browns were doing what I would expect second and third string and fourth and fifth string players to do, playing the Jim Schwartz style of defense. They were way over committing. There is a thing called influence blocking where teams look like they're running one direction and then they just cut it back. And the over aggression of a bunch of guys desperately trying to make an NFL football team had a lot to do with what I was watching, because I'm sitting there saying, well, God, the influence blocking is going left. Everybody is way over committing left, and they're just running it back to the right side. The same thing for Ronnie Hickman. I mean, to be isolated on a wide receiver and he's a safety, and he pulled a muscle or did whatever he did, trying to chase the guy down. It's just another example of you don't want to be in that coverage at that time of any game, and mistakes are mistakes, and there were just an abundant number of mistakes by the Browns. But again, not making excuses, but when you're starting from scratch on an offensive scheme, it isn't easy to go from being a 3 tight end team to try to become a multiple wide receiver downfield throwing team. I do feel
a lot of those offensive woes got exacerbated by the fact that the center went down with a broken ankle. I don't know what string he is, but
Luke Whippler, former Ohio State guy, was to be the second string center, and Whippler, that injury would never have happened if DTR had thrown the ball. But you see, the play happened, and DTR got sacked, and they all fell in a pile right on the side of Whippler's leg, and he fractured his leg. And that's the way offensive linemen get injured. But it's so the Browns now have brought Nick Harris back in, the guy who was our backup center last year. He's also the guy you might remember who was the lead blocker in the Browns' jumbo short yardage situations. He lines in the up slot, and he was blocking for power runners this year, which might be Deontay Foreman if he's healthy enough to play, just to be a couple of big bodies to bash into the line when we have that 4th and 1 that we need to get, assuming that Stefanski doesn't call a double end around.
Taking a page from Freddie Kitchens.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just like, I'm going to take them by surprise. Don't just run them over. Just take them by surprise. It's so foolish. And I agree with bringing Harris back, because the running game, as far as zone blocking schemes, isn't going to be the thing that radically changes. What radically changes are the types of under center snaps versus shotgun snaps and downfield throwing. And it's of benefit to both of our quarterbacks. And I'm not saying 3 quarterbacks, I'm saying 2. I can't say what Deshaun Watson is going to do, what he's going to be when he plays, but it may just as likely be that Jameis Winston will be quarterbacking this team, and he will throw the ball down the field as well. He throws a lot of interceptions, but
yeah, I was going to say it could be the wrong colored jersey that comes down with that ball.
Yeah, he's Black Vinny Testaverde is what it amounts to.
Well, yeah, Testaverde, when he was in Tampa Bay, when he was on the Browns, he actually cut down on his interceptions.
Yeah,
surprisingly.
Yeah,
out of nowhere, he has a fucking 11-5 record.
Yeah, but that was a rarity.
But with Watson's injury, I that could be a Cam Newton situation in the making.
You just don't know. And there were, and we've been following the practices, and there have been signs of underthrows on deep passes, not just by Watson, but by everybody is underthrowing receivers. Now, I don't understand, why Jameis Winston would be, but I have a fear of why Deshaun Watson might be. So this is all going to play out, and it's going to be obvious. I mean, if he's not able to get the ball on a rope to receivers, then people will not have Deshaun to kick around anymore, and they'll have to, and they've already gone on to the dome, and whatever they're going to argue about amongst the Cleveland fans. I only look at the season and I say, this is why this happens. There were players who looked good. The problem is, if you're an offensive lineman like Zach Zinter, you graded out well in that game. But if you're surrounded by two other players who keep fucking up, is what it amounts to, then y'all look
Yeah.
bad. But there were guys who actually, I thought Jabari Thrash made a really good. Is that his name? Jamari Thrash, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he made a good catch on a ball over the middle that was high, and he caught it with his hands. And this is one guy that I'm interested. He was a fifth round pick. I was interested in seeing what he could do. Landers, who was just literally out of the blue guy who played at Arkansas and had played with three colleges in 3 years. Um, he's a big 6'4" guy. He caught one pass on the sideline. Uh, I'm looking at the depth players because right now that's who's playing. We're not, we lost David Bell again. And I think this is the unfortunate reality. He literally is Jarvis Landry. The problem is he's Jarvis Landry when he's 33. Uh, David Bell can't
Yeah.
stay healthy. I mean, he he gets to the first line, first down marker, catches the ball, goes to the ground, comes up lame, doesn't play anymore. And
He took a shot to the shin
well,
on that
he's
play.
at
So I
least
think
2 weeks. They're saying 2 weeks he's going to be gone.
yeah. So I think that was like a bone contusion or a strained knee or something weird.
There is a real chance he could get cut. And there's a real chance for other receivers to make names for themselves now because David Bell will not be on the field. If you haven't heard, you're not going to see Deshaun Watson in game 2. He is not going to be playing at all. He will be playing in game 3. However, the fact that the Vikings and the Browns are practicing together, Deshaun Watson will be receiving the vast majority of reps against the Vikings defense in practice. So again, they're bringing him along, but they're not putting him in a situation where he could get hurt. But I'll tell you, if he's going to get hurt, he will. It will find him, or he will
Wasn't that
find it.
now? Wasn't that a regular season matchup last year?
I put last year behind me. I don't.
Well, I'm
You
saying
mean in the
there would be
preseason or in the regular season?
no. I thought they play. Didn't they play in the regular season,
Maybe
or
somebody
was
in the
that the
chat
season
room would
before?
remember that. I'm like 67
Because
years old.
there would be my point being that there would be they would have more familiarity with what Stefanski wants to do in those practices. So it would be a much harder practice than, say, a team they haven't played in like 7 years or something.
Yeah, and I get the feeling they want certain live reps because Stefanski was talking to the press and was saying this was going to be a lot more mentally and physically taxing um, for Deshaun Watson, and that they want to push forward as far as getting him up to game speed and seeing things in real time, and that the practices are going to be spirited. So it's something, again, to be looking at. Nobody's trying to hurt anybody, but at the same time, I I get the feeling that they're starting to ramp him up and put him out in the fire and see what he can do. And then week 3 against Seattle, I believe, the preseason, he'll be getting the start in that game. And how much he'll be playing, I'm not sure. If it were me right now, I would say Watson, of course, is your starter, and Winston is your second stringer, and I think DTR is your third string guy. I don't think Tyler Huntley really is of anything to get excited over, and you already have.
Well, and I don't. Again, guys are going to be system quarterbacks, and this may not be the right system for him. So
Yeah, I mean, I watched Tyler Huntley play for the Ravens, and he was the ultimate manager. He was like worse than Jacoby Brissett. He has a noodle arm, and he doesn't really get the ball down the field well. And it's all outside the tackles kind of things. If he's in the pocket, he's going to get swamped. He's very small. He can't break tackles. And he's the antithesis of what the first top two guys are. I mean, Deshaun Watson, who can get around in the pocket, and Jameis Winston, who's the size of a bus. Well, thank you, Rubber City. Yeah, my back pain. I just try to forget about it, man. But yeah, that's so my overview to start with is that I didn't expect the Browns to look good. It was like watching somebody trying to implement something for the first time, and it's for public viewing. So a lot of people will say, God, they suck. But I'm not, I don't put much stock in that. Then there's also the fact that nobody's even showing anything on these kickoffs. That was just cuckoo.
I was waiting for this.
No, I mean, it's just like Cade York couldn't kick it between the goal line and the 20. We had one game, a preseason game, where a guy picked up the ball in the end zone and ran it out. He had to go. He was inbounds, and he went back in. He came out and got tackled, in the field of play, and they were going to put him all the way back on the goal line. And then they stopped the game and said, no, under the new rules, that's a safety. And they changed it to a safety. The officials didn't even understand what they were doing.
Yeah.
Very strange. And, they say you can get used to anything. And I suppose that's the case, but it's off-putting when you're 67 years old and watching professional football. And I've seen a lot of changes in the professional game. But this is like anarchy. It's like, I don't know what in the hell, who's supposed to do what. The only thing I know, if a guy catches it between the 10 and the 20, or the goal line and the 20, he just has to run forward. That's as far as I've gotten with this. And
yeah,
where they spot the ball, under what circumstance, I don't know. As far as who looked good, besides Cade York not being able to kick it between the goal line and the 20, the 55-yard field goal.
How about Claude the Cat?
Who?
Claude the Cat. Last year, a couple times you called him Claude. And so for Tony and I, he is now Claude the Cat. Who was the Cade York.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I mean, that
if you remember the yellow cartoon cat that would always get scared by the dog and then hang from the ceiling.
Yep.
There you go. Claude the Cat.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, that kick looked like the first kick that he made in his rookie season, and mechanically he just fell apart, and then mentally he fell apart, and he hasn't gotten it back since. But that kick would have been good from 65, 67, maybe 70 yards. He crushed that ball. He's got an amazing leg, and he's going to land somewhere. And if this guy ever would get his head together, and I'm not sure that that's going to happen, but
and speaking of former kickers, we had a Greg Joseph sighting.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about field goal kickers is you're only as good as the last thing you did, and they constantly circulate and recirculate around the league. And
well, and I had to stop and listen to the broadcast again when they were announcing the other Packer kicker, Anders Carlson. If that isn't the most Viking fucking name.
Oh, yeah. That guy's got the team made, But Greg Joseph, I think he was the guy who, when he missed an important playoff field goal, he said something to the effect that I guess Jesus wanted it that way. And, I hate it when Jesus has a betting interest in games. I hate that because I'll never know where Jesus placed his money. If I knew, I'd put the money down right then and there. But no, Greg Joseph, he kind of goofy guy. And I think Cade York will be a good kicker somewhere eventually if he can maintain the mentality. You could see with that kick what it's supposed to do: height and draw. I mean, that looked like a beautiful draw off the tee that Tiger Woods would hit, slightly right to left, but bringing it right in. That but when he was with Cleveland and afterwards, he was hitting the ball low and hooking it, and very strange. Hey, Big Lurker, how you doing? Hi to Double P.
Wow,
Hi.
there's a blast from the past.
Oh, here's Bronk. I didn't see him in here. Hi, Bronk.
Boo.
Your friend Brian's here.
Yeah, I was asleep.
Oh, I'm sorry to wake you up.
Yeah, the phone went off, but anyway. So I realized the program would be on now. How about that? How about that USA basketball team? Because that's what most people were watching instead of that Browns game.
Yeah, but I wasn't, because if I wanted to watch professional basketball, I'll watch professional basketball. I don't need it masquerading in the Olympics. What I really like is when wow. But like, what do I want to see Joel Hans Embiid play more? I mean, why do I really want to get a chubby watching LeBron and Steph Curry being being teammates and all this, and LeBron making the gesture? Do I really want to see it? No, I don't want to see that.
You must have done, because you're saying what they did.
I read the stuff on the internet. You can't avoid this shit. And look, Steph Curry is the greatest three-point shooter that I've ever seen.
He can get hot. Yeah, obviously,
and still at his age can get hot. He's a remarkable shooter.
Well, I mean, the thing that I'm left thinking about is that if Curry and LeBron had been on the same franchise, they would have been a legitimate dynasty if they'd been on the same team at the same time.
Well, the only thing I didn't like about, and I shouldn't lump Steph Curry in with everybody else, but I mean, with Draymond Green out there, I hated the team immediately. And then when they lost to the Cavaliers in the finals, and then the first thing they do is they bring in Kevin Durant, it was real watered down at that point. It's like, well, geez, the league wants them to win so badly that they're just going to let them get every player in the fucking world, So no, I had no interest in watching that. Now, the Olympic races, like the 400 meters race, and the races where people come back from behind, I can't envision training for a single event like a 400-meter race.
Yeah,
and in a situation that's once every 4 years.
Yeah.
So that if you fucked up, man, you'd have 4 years, 4 long years. It was like the speed skater back in the 70s. What was his name?
Eric Heiden,
who fell that first
year. Then he came back in Lake Placid and won like 25 gold medals.
Right.
Yeah, I was there. I remember it.
Yeah. I mean, so some people never get that second chance, that second Olympics. And, to watch some of these people perform in their single moment in the spotlight, it's really remarkable.
Well, the big thing here in Britain was the 800-meter girl who beat the Ethiopians and the Kenyans and just blew by the field, and she got the only British track gold medal.
Anyone can beat Ethiopians. They just put a fast food stand on the side of the track. I mean, I'm sorry.
Instead of a rabbit, they chase a baked potato.
Here's Stephen Rose joining us.
It's like the whole dysfunctional family all in one place.
Well, Mr. Wood, you're about to hate me for telling you this right now, but I.
What do you mean I'm about to hate you?
Well, I jinxed the team. I said over under 100, and ever since that conversation,
exactly. I brought that up the other day. The Guardians have been sucking. It's the hedgehog of doom that caused that.
So what is it you're saying, Steven? I didn't understand the point of what you're saying.
No, I said last time I was on your stream, the Guardians were in first place. In
Exactly.
The
Yes.
baseball. And,
Yeah,
I,
we
and
brought
I
that
went on
up.
to say over under 95, and we're all
Yep.
like,
Oh
Yep,
yeah.
yep,
Oh
yep,
yeah.
yep.
like, hey,
God.
get ahead of yourself, and then the losing streak
Yep.
started.
Yeah, we brought that up on Friday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they've won 2 in a row.
Yeah.
That's
Femke
very
Bowl was just amazing. I mean,
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah, and she looked great in 2 different races. She's just strong.
Oh, Mr. Muhead, and also the kickoff is going to be a complete abysmal. They're going to have to
Oh.
eventually redo it because
Yeah,
I
it's
saw the
ridiculous.
Cowboys-Rams game where the Rams took the lead at the end and they kicked the ball off, or it was one of those preseason games, and they couldn't even advance the ball 5 yards. So there's no I mean, I'm not saying you're going to return the kick, but there's not even a chance of that now. So they're going to have to do something with that kickoff thing. It just doesn't make no sense. I hate it.
Well, the thing is, and I'm not criticizing the population at large, but when I see the comments,
You're going to anyway.
yes, but when I see the comments, on social media, the stupid things that people take away from games, which I don't understand why people focus on the damnedest things, but when all of these fans are just asking the same thing, it's like, well, I don't get it. I don't get this kickoff thing. And, and I'm sitting there right there with them saying, I don't get it either. I can't explain this to you. They've missed the mark on this. They've just
Mr. Muhead, will we ever have another return kick for a touchdown ever? Because it looks like with that format, it's going to be virtually impossible.
Well, and there's no excitement to it. I mean, it's like everything gets hunkered down, and it just becomes like a ritual. Why don't we just give a team the ball on the 25-yard line and say, go at it?
But we just saw I think it was the Cowboys-Rams game. It was the preseason game where the only chance they could win was to return the kick, and you just completely eliminated that now.
Well, it's just like eliminating onside kicks in the middle of games.
Correct. Yeah.
You're taking away the element of surprise that made this game. The game is fast and furious, but the history of the game is full of plays that everything from like Refrigerator Perry catching passes and running the ball on goal line situations. The unexpected is to be expected. And it's just becoming so ritualized.
Now they're trying to even it out for the defense and special teams because the last 5 years or 10 years, they made it an all offensive game, right? So they made it easier for the offense to score. Now it seems like they're trying to even it out. I don't know what it is they're doing.
What doesn't make sense to me, and that the special team players in years gone by were the guys who didn't have long careers because they would last 2-3 years and then they'd either get beat up or they wouldn't make the team because there'd be younger, faster guys willing to commit suicide on the field. And so, all of this, when they had all of the most dangerous elements, and the blocking schemes on the kickoffs that they ended up eradicating because they said there was too much, focal effort in one direction, one part of the field, and people were getting crushed from the side and people were getting their legs ripped apart. So now with what I'm seeing, you tell me, why were teams saying, oh, we're getting Nyheim Hines because of the new kickoff rule? It's like, well, I mean, Nyheim Hines, his knee is still fucked up. He'd be hopping on one foot, and that's good enough in this because, what's the excitement factor
Mr.
here?
Muhead, but let's say, okay, it's the Super Bowl, and the team that's receiving the ball is down by 1 with, let's say, 7 seconds left. Well, instead of you kicking the ball off regularly and maybe returning it to the 50 for a Hail Mary, now you may be lucky to get it to the 30 and then having to throw maybe 170-yard pass, which we know that's not going to – it just, to me, like if it's in a scenario like that, these conversations are going to start coming up more.
Yeah.
When it's a playoff game or a Super Bowl, Yeah,
it's and Rick May, I couldn't agree more with you. This whole thing and Double P's next comments will say the same thing about the Guardian caps, not the baseball team, but the foam, You know,
Yeah, it was the same thing too.
well, I call them the Tempur-Pedic helmets. You know,
All right.
it weighs a
It
fucking
remembers
ton. It weighs a
your
fucking
head
ton. Yeah, and so you're putting more strain on your
on
neck.
your
Well,
neck. Yeah, that's what you want to do to your C3 and C4. Put
yeah,
some strain on it.
exactly. And the thing that really bothers me is it's lip service about safety, and there is no safety in the game. And teams will invest in players who I mean, any Tom, Dick, or Harry is going to wind up in this kickoff scheme
Yeah.
because you don't need specialized players.
No, you don't. You don't need any of them.
Wouldn't it be great if the next thing they did was bring back the drop kick?
Well, it's going all rugby-ish, and that's the rugby play, the drop kick.
Let's just get rid of the kickoff in general. Let's just put the
that's
guy
what I'm
the ball on the 20-yard line. Jesus fucking Christ, you know?
Yeah, it's just not.
There's only one positive I can think of this new kickoff rules, that there won't be any block in the back penalties because it's impossible. You can't get behind the guy to block him in the back.
Doesn't it look weird? The guy's kicking it back from the 30, and all the guys are standing in the
35.
line. Like, they just look like, okay, what do I do? And it's just like the guy catches the ball, like, oh, now I can run. It's like, what the hell, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's like that old vibrating football game with the felt football.
Well, and that's why I said on the Friday show, you know, don't be shocked if teams stop using the place kicker for the kickoffs.
Exactly. Yeah, they won't because they don't need to.
They'll end up using a linebacker or a defensive end or something and have an extra tackler.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
just do like Tecmo Bowl where it's animation.
Yeah, exactly. And all of them running at the same time down the field. You know, they look like a goddamn bunch of fucking showgirls. You know,
get Bo Jackson on your Tecmo team.
Yeah, right, and just let him just be a blur on the screen. Yeah. Where'd he go? Oh, he's already back in the tunnel, man. What are you talking about? He's
already ran a touchdown, ran all the way back to the other end zone, ran back again, and didn't get tackled.
Next thing you know, they're going to do the onside kick the same way they set up the kickoff return. Oh, my God.
There will be no onside kicks until the final possession of a game that would determine the outcome of a game. So in other words, if you wanted to open up the start of the game with an onside kick, it's now illegal. If you were to do it in the beginning of the second half, it would be illegal.
Here's a question I bet no one can answer. So what are the overtime rules for kickoffs then?
It's not going to be any different. Nobody's going to return it all the way.
Wait, what if it's in the last 2 minutes of overtime?
But here's the thing: why can't you onside kick in a tied game scenario? Why does you have to be losing? Like if you're winning, I get it, but if it's tied, why can't you kick an onside?
It sure as fuck wouldn't stop Kevin Stefanski. I mean, you know,
he'd go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's foolishness.
Pick up the ball and throw a pass.
You know, I like Amsterdam's comment about the penalty kicks. You know, and to eliminate the tie from the NFL, like my suggestion would be, why not just have like the kickers do like a penalty kick from like the 40-yard line?
That may happen.
Are you
that's crap.
You know how much money people are spending to be in that fucking stadium watching that game, and if they have to sit there and it'll become a contest of two men kicking, it's like, oh fuck!
It would be kind of
let's
get the kicker their money's worth, you know, like a penalty shootout.
Hey, you know,
right after overtime. Good.
I that wouldn't surprise me if it did happen.
Yeah, but risk reward, and they're eliminating that aspect of the game, and that's not a real good idea.
But the Browns are down 1 against the Steelers with 5 seconds left. The fourth quarter, you know, this way this kickoff's designed, there's no way you're going to return it.
No.
You might as well just kneel it at the 1.
No, they're going to start doing the backward pass thing in the end zone. I mean, it's foolishness.
Were they going to throw an interception?
You know, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. This is my prediction. This is how the first woman is going to become an NFL player. She'll be the kicker with this rule.
It could happen, yeah.
Because because what's it matter? You just kick the
doesn't
ball,
matter.
you just pooch kick the goddamn thing.
Mr. Mued, I know we keep throwing jokes at this kickoff thing, but in all preseason games, I haven't seen one kick even go to the 45-yard line. I think like the most that someone advanced was to like the 41. I'm like, there's literally no way to return this kick. It's like virtually impossible.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a good example. Rick May saying the Music City Miracle. These things are not going to happen.
Yeah.
They're just not going to happen in this scheme. You know,
No, the defensive team is, or the kicking team is just too close.
Well,
correct.
To be fair, Rubber City, I think that the guy on second base that rule's a little bit better than this one. This one,
it's absolutely better.
It's better. I'm not saying it's not bad, but it's better. I hate seeing baseball games going to 1920. And
God, yes.
I'm not staying up till like 3 a.m. to watch two teams 20 games below 500 go to 18 innings.
I'm sorry, you put a man at second base. I'm going to agree with Rubber City here. You put a guy on second base, and all you have to do is bunt him to third and hit a sac fly.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen, though. but it's true. You're right, but it doesn't happen that way.
No, but I'm just saying it's like...
It should happen that way every single time, but it
just becomes just like a machine running, and there's no anticipation of anything. Guy just dinks it down the line, bunts it. The guy's standing on third. The guy gets thrown out. And then the next guy just hits a fly ball to the outfield. And, and if you're the home team, It's like, if you have a good relief pitcher who held the other team, we won! And they run off the field like they're the fucking Bad News Bears. But the reality is they were gifted the win.
But Moohead, you say that now until you're at a baseball game where it goes to the 19th inning. And you imagine
I understand what you're saying. It really does get exceedingly tedious.
Both teams are below 500, and you're like,
there's only one thing I can say about putting the man on second base in extra innings. It spares the audience the possibility of 17 or 18 innings of Underwood and Manning.
Well, that's true too.
I do like the other rules they have, where if you bring in a new pitcher, he has to at least go through 3 batters. I like that idea too.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
I like in the the mound visits and all that. They don't do that.
That's a good rule.
I like the new rules. They speed up the game a little bit.
Yeah, I do too. But I mean, this thing with Matt Underwood sitting there saying, "Well, that wasn't a strike," and it's like, "Well, you're not an announcer." I mean, why should anything be real? Because you're here. You suck. The guy makes more mistakes and more errors than you can imagine. And Manning is 70 plus years of age, and he's living in the past. Yeah, Rick, do you remember when you hit that home run? Yeah, I had 10 that year. And it's like, this thing goes on. And it's like, quit filleting one another and just get on with calling the game.
Rick Manning played 50 fucking years ago. That's when he broke in. So, the guy's hair dye, anyway.
Moohead, did they do studies on this kickoff thing that determined injuries? And then they just switched it, or they're just going, the
fucking tobacco companies had studies that said it didn't cause lung cancer. What do you want me to tell you? I mean, studies. You can pay anybody to say anything.
I mean, is there any statistics that they pulled out of their hat to prove that more injuries occurred during the kickoff? Because I don't see it.
Yeah, the Heritage Foundation looked into it and said that it wasn't.
Oh, God.
Oh, God almighty. And then
Project Football.
Yeah, and then it was fact-checked by Snopes.
Yeah, there you go.
Orange.
Yeah, get this. Everybody is all hung up on the stadium, the dome that is being proposed for Brook Park, all right?
Oh,
God. And it's like, the Browns are going to be in a dome. Then invariably, that ruins the ambiance. It's like, don't talk to me about ambiance of going to the Browns during football season. I was there in the old stadium when people would piss in the stands because you couldn't get into the lavatories, and
Because they were flooded with
they'd whip
piss.
their dicks out and piss right there, and the guy who was selling the popcorn would walk right through it. I don't want to hear about that. Ambiance. Fuck you and your ambiance. And again, who want, oh yeah, well, we're going to go without a shirt on and end up with pneumonia. It's like, it's foolishness. It's fucking foolishness.
Well, I can tell you that my parents, when they had the upper deck seats in Cleveland Muni, they would, it would be half like coffee and then half liquor. And that's the only way that they could stay warm enough through to get through the goddamn games. And then they would bring their own blankets.
Well, as if this wasn't bad enough. People are, complaining because, now they're going to tax us. It's like, you're willing to pay so much money to watch these football games, man. Just stop watching them. I mean, you are at the, it's the big hill and the shit ball rolling down it, and you're at the bottom of the hill. The fans,
the consumer.
Yep, and you're at the bottom of the hill. Who's going to get affected by inflation the most in the economy? Well, it's you folks, because you got to buy things for your kids, and they're 3 times more expensive than they used to be. And believe me, the people in Washington D.C., they don't even use currency. Everything is bartered for them, and they don't even buy groceries. They're not real people. So you're always at the bottom of the hill with the shitball rolling down on you. And that's the way it is with, the Dome Stadium.
And so much of their shit is housing expenses anyway. It's a big fucking write-off for them, and they can just send out their aide to go and do all that fucking shit for them.
I just hate whenever the owners always want a new stadium, but they never want to pay for it. But then again, it's kind of our fault too, because we also go to the games and support it. So,
well, that's just it. And nobody's going to give that up, because if they gave that up, they'd have nothing to argue about on Twitter. You see, I mean, they want to piss and moan about stuff all day long. And I think that's the only reason that they're fans, because now they're bitching about this dome. And, I'm going to bitch about something that's got nothing to do with the dome. The first thing was when they opened that goddamn Cleveland Brown Stadium, it sucked. From the very beginning, it was the most barren looking, dull looking, non-charismatic looking. It was this
concrete,
ugly
factory
building that has turned out over time and over 25 or whatever years to have been built poorly. And the foundation is bad,
rotting away.
And we never had a home field advantage. It was like nobody ever said that CBS was Cleveland Brown Stadium was really rocking the house. I mean,
no.
You couldn't make it a big enough noise. Meanwhile, people are in Seattle, and it was impossible to beat Seattle because it was so loud in that stadium.
Yeah.
But people were leaving the stadium early in Cleveland because the team was bad, but also because it wasn't the place to be.
No. So the Browns are getting a dome stadium.
They're gonna wind up with
Probably,
a dome stadium many years down the road, and that's that. But you know what killed me?
Hopefully, Jimmy Haslam is dead by then.
Well, we
got 70.
Yeah, D will take over, and
D already runs the thing. You know what the most pathetic thing about that domed model when they showed it was these like clumps of like 5 trees here, there, and sort of everywhere. Like, oh, we're being green here. It was so pathetic.
You know what I couldn't understand? They showed the renderings of the dome, and then Trump was at one of his rallies saying it's all AI. It's all AI.
Wow.
And it's like, I mean, right now you don't know what that dome's going to look like. The artist rendering always makes it look like it's something out of fucking Star Trek's future, But when it gets put up, it's the goddamn Coliseum at Ridgefield. Let's
that was another horrible building too, though.
Oh yeah,
that was a horrible building.
Most likely, it's going to actually be modeled after the Mercedes Dome or the Georgia Dome.
Or the
But Mr.
one in
Muad,
Minnesota.
do you think every team in the North is going to eventually have a dome stadium to take that weather element out? But then it kind of takes the fun away from those games that used to snow and the weather
I
factors.
don't think they'll ever do that in Pittsburgh because in an enclosed building
Or in
it would
Buffalo.
smell too bad. You know,
Or in Buffalo.
You put 85,000 or 80,000 Pittsburgh fans in there.
80,000 users in there.
the
You wouldn't
odor.
be able to air it out.
Oh my God!
Because one home field advantage you having if you're a northern team is the snow element.
That's what it used to be, but more and more, you don't see that
Nobody
many
cares.
ice bowl games. It's more wet, rain kinds of things that will infest the football season.
Can I answer DJ Brobot real quick?
Sure.
That's because Robert Kraft owns the goddamn Patriots, not Jimmy Haslam. He said the plans for the Patriots complex ended up real close to the renderings for Foxborough. And it's like, well, yeah, because of who the owner is. Now with a dome stadium, you would get much more year-round activities, and you could actually move the Ottawa Guardians to an indoor stadium in the summer and get away from the fucking mosquitoes for a change.
Well, what I think will probably move will be the Columbus Crew. They'll probably move them up to Cleveland.
But what have they done to make Cleveland Brown Stadium, was Last Energy or whatever they're calling it?
Last Energy. No energy.
Yeah. No energy.
No energy.
That's a better name.
Energy.
Thank you. I'm here all
Low
week.
T
Ours
stadium.
used to be called NRG.
Yeah.
So, and how they getting the fan base excited besides, we're going to have a dome in X number of years by 2020 or 2029 or some such goofy thing, or 2030 or whatever.
Oh,
so what
we'll
are they
do? King by then.
Yeah, what are they saying and doing about the current stadium? And the answer is Brownie is back on the 50-yard line, and it's
woohoo!
Yeah, that was something.
Can we at least see the dog on the helmet of the Browns? Can the Browns please put a damn dog on that helmet?
Well, the fucking dog keeps dying. Every dog that was on that sideline is dead.
They're all dead. Everybody's dead.
I just hate that brown mustard color. I hate that construction site color on y'all's helmets. Just put a goddamn logo on it already.
Well, Stephen, unfortunately, you live in a region that has no fucking season. So the orange is actually for the color of the leaves that turn orange and brown and fall off the trees.
Wow, that sounds
fair
plausible.
enough. That's fair enough assessment.
Yeah. Well, here's
that's why they took those colors. That was Paul Brown, by the way.
Because
Go ahead.
Well,
the Indianapolis Colts are talking about opening up their stadium for the snow games, and I said, well, that's a fair advantage for them.
Well, yeah,
things could be worse.
Things could be worse.
Could be the New York Jets. All right. If you haven't been following Hassan Reddick,
no, I haven't. What have they been
he's
doing?
their pass rusher, Pro Bowler. Said he wanted to be traded, and this whole thing has taken a really ugly turn, which is typical of the Jets. They're just totally unhinged. He's unhappy with his contract. He's missed 21 days of training camp, incurring the mandatory fine of $50,000 per day. All right.
Yeah.
It's unusual because he was acquired in a trade only 4.5 months ago. He's like, I want to be here, Mom. I want to go. Yeah. So now here's how the Jets have responded to Hassan Reddick's wanting to be traded before he even ever hit the field with the team. All right. We have informed Hassan that we will not trade him, that he is expected to be here with his teammates. He will continue to be fined if he doesn't report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here as we prepare for the regular season. Now, all he has to do is just kind of sit it out. It's like The Jets traded a 2026 conditional third-round pick for the two-time Pro Bowler. They were under the impression that he would play under his existing contract. But it became an issue when Reddick started skipping the entire offseason, including the mandatory minicamp. Yeah, so that's how the Jets are starting. But here's the one that kills me the most.
No.
Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, well, what's happened to him?
Headline. He regrets his 2021 comment that he was immunized. Get this. This guy is still living in 2021. And if you remember, Aaron Rodgers wouldn't take the Nazi vaccine or whatever the fuck he called it back then. And that he was making some great political statement by not taking it. And then when he was asked about it, he said, well, I am immunized. And he showed people something from some kind of a holistic nutrition person claiming that immunized him from COVID. So he's fucking crazy and he's brain damaged is what it amounts to, because nobody is immune. By the way, Stephen, have you had COVID?
I caught it 3 times.
All right. Bronk, have you had COVID?
In January.
All right. Brian, have you had COVID?
Not that I know of.
All right. And I've had COVID. And the fact of the matter is, virtually everybody I know had COVID. And the point of the goddamn shot was not to prevent getting it. It was they were trying to lessen the symptoms of the goddamn thing because bodies were piling up. But Aaron Rodgers, of course, had to make it part of a big conspiracy theory. But the best is yet to come in this story.
Okay.
Mr. Mued,
I think
now you're right.
I
I made it political by not taking it, but after the second time I caught it, I said, I'm tired of this shit. So I went and took the jab. So when I caught it the third time, to be fair, it was, the symptoms were not that bad.
Well, it's all different variants anyway. So,
Yeah. Here's the thing. He goes, if I could do it again, this is 2024, Aaron Rodgers, I would have said in August, fuck the appeal. I'm just going to tell them I'm allergic to PEG. I'm not getting the Johnson & Johnson. I'm not going to be vaxxed. That's what Rodgers is saying now. He's saying, oh, he was allergic to the vaccine. So he misled an entire country using his popularity as an athlete and lied to people intentionally. And now his excuse is, oh, well, I was allergic to the Johnson & Johnson, which is fine. There was another vaccine you could have gotten, you fucking liar.
Yeah,
and the fact, it's like, it's pathetic to me. I mean, if you don't believe what you were saying and you were saying it just to get attention, that's what it looks like now. And he's 40 years old and players don't want to play for the Jets. And I'm going to say something that I don't usually say, unless they're Pittsburgh Steelers. I hope Rodgers gets his bell rung so bad he realizes that he shouldn't be playing football anymore, because his best days are far behind him. And if he needs to stoop to these levels to get attention for himself during this whole end of career stage, perhaps he needs a therapist to help him get acclimated to the fact
I thought that was the whole point of his fucking special retreats where he...
Well, yeah.
Well, to clear his mind and his spirit or whatever the fuck he says. I don't pay attention to that asshole.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is real arrogant.
I got rid of one fucking Antichrist. He's the second one. So as soon as he fucking retires, I can, I might even actually have an alcoholic beverage to celebrate.
Yeah, I mean,
and I gave up drinking when I was 23.
So why is this guy saying this now? Because he's pitching his book, Out of the Darkness, The Mystery of Aaron Rodgers. That's the name of the book. I mean, please.
Who would spend the time to read that?
You wonder why Hassan Reddick doesn't want to play for the Jets? It's because it's a clown show.
Yeah.
They're just paying people money for nothing there. They don't want to
ain't
be
it
there.
funny that he mentions Johnson and Johnson and he fucking plays for one of the goddamn heirs to that company?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the other funny part.
Correct.
And you know that he was actually joking with Woody Johnson about the fact that he refused to take that? I mean, Woody is probably like, fuck me.
Hey, Woody
Now-
was
now I
ambassador
do-
to Great Britain.
Now, my reasoning for not getting the vaccine is because number one, they were rushed through, and number two, you cannot. They took the Trump in his infinite stupidity allowed them to say, "Well, we don't want any blowback, so you must give us total immunity from being sued for anything that happens if they take the vaccine." So from that point on, I said, "Fuck you! I'm not doing it."
Well, I can understand. I mean, it's an individual's choice what they do. You don't. Nobody's going to force you to.
Yeah, you weren't required to have it in Britain. I had 3 of them.
Yeah, and
I was the same way
when I had my turn to get it. Rocks caught it. Get together a couple of women down in Florida and brought it into the house, and I got it too. I was fortunate, and she was fortunate that our symptoms were not brought, but we got it later in. We didn't get it early on. We got it 2 years into the thing. We managed to stay away from it for 2 years, but it caught us finally. But fortunately, it wasn't as dramatically bad as it was 2 years before, where the government didn't know, doctors didn't know how to handle it, and they were putting people prematurely on ventilators, which turned out to be the exact opposite of what they should have been doing.
Exactly.
So,
doctors were dying here who caught it from treating patients.
So,
but, I got it in January 2024, and it was bad enough. So,
yeah, it was not a
I
fun
don't recommend it. Yeah,
but for me, it was not a bad thing, and for Rocks, not a bad thing either. It was something that it was more kind of ominous because you tested positive,
Yeah,
and it was that was kind of there was dread surrounding the virus.
Well, what do you think of Noah Lyles, participating when he had a COVID test?
There's 2 things that came out of the Olympics. One was that, which is really, again, I was always pissed off at people who knew that they were sick and they would still mingle with people and give somebody, and they would kill somebody with COVID.
Exactly.
Because
That's somebody
was weak and couldn't afford to go through it. And yeah, that's stupid. The other thing that is really incredibly stupid is taking a bronze medal away from an athlete and giving it to another athlete, because well after the performance, they had a replay that showed that gymnast who they took the medal away from technically stepped out of bounds. And because of that, after the medal ceremony, and they put it around her neck, nope, we're taking it away from you and giving it to the Romanian.
They should have had a riot.
So
they had a bottle gate.
That happens because of a country protest.
Oh.
Wow.
Nothing's
The Romanians probably protested about that, and it raised a big fucking stink, and we're gonna, pull all their athletes from
Give 2 bronzes out. Who gives a shit? I mean, it was this much of the foot, and that's what we, shit.
Well, and to me, the worst one was the 2 dudes beating up on the fucking chicks in the boxing.
Well, you know what bothers me about it more than anything? Because I can't tell you anything about this woman and from Algeria. I can't tell you anything. But now she's going out there and saying, I was being bullied by the media, and it's like, look, your 10 minutes of fame are over. Just shut the fuck up. I mean, the bottom line is you were part of a brouhaha and you won the gold medal. Now shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about that crap anymore. And I don't understand the story to begin with. I mean,
And the IBA came out and stood by their testing methods and said, no, these two are actually dudes, and that's why we disqualified them
well,
in 2023.
I have no idea, nor could the public at large know. She was more muscled than the people she fought. There was no question about that. But again, I was asking a simple question was, did she go through male puberty? And nobody seemed to be able to answer that question. And I haven't seen it addressed in the press either.
Well, and how is this person even alive? They're from Algeria. They fucking kill trans people and gay people in Algeria.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's a Muslim-run country, like hardcore fucking Muslim-run country.
Well, again, I didn't like the attention of the event being stolen by this, and it didn't help that the Italian woman quit, and to make a big scene out of this is like a protest, and I don't understand any of it, but I guess what it boils down to me is it's over, and I don't want to hear it anymore. Because
what about the last meal? Did y'all see the last meal?
God.
Y'all remember that where they did the Last Supper and they had all the LGBT in there?
Oh yes. Well, I mean, you mean at the Olympics, the opening?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that wasn't the Last Supper. You see, Americans are stupid. All right.
Okay.
It was a bunch of fearful Christians, and I'm sorry, folks, but I'm telling you the truth. The blue character
was Bacchus.
With Dionysus.
Depends on Greek or Roman, whichever one
Yeah.
you want to use.
And it was not a recreation of the Last Supper. That's something that scared Christians came up with. It was something that was all Greek mythology. Well, Greek,
The
definitely.
Bacchanalia. It was all Greek to you.
So, so much talking about stuff that is, and was Celine Dion really singing? And it's like, you can't believe that she could be blown over by a good little bit of wind, and the woman's been through hell with a muscular wasting disease. Do you think that she was actually singing that way? And the answer is no. It was just like Whitney Houston's national anthem. It was pre-recorded. Please just stop. The Guardians are going to be starting at about 36 minutes. It's going to be Ben Lively against Shota Imanaga. He's one of the good pitchers, 9-2 with a 306 earner run average for the Cubs. And get this, Stephen Kwan will lead off. Lane Thomas, depending on how you feel. He's batting a 125 since he got here. He's in the 2-hole still, and he should not be. Jose, it's because the left-hander is pitching. Jose Ramirez is the 3-hole. David Fry is hitting cleanup. Josh Naylor's been dropped down to 5. John Kenzie Noel will finally get to play against a left-handed pitcher, which I don't understand why John Kenzie isn't getting a chance, because everybody else is whipping up there. Yeah. And all they're doing is throwing change-ups. And that was the thing I wanted to say before I get out of here. They're trying to pull everything, and they're waiting for fastballs, and they're just watching, early changeups go right over the heart of the plate, and then with 2 strikes, they chase the goddamn pitch and they strike out. It's like anybody who knows anything about hitting would tell the team, you got to go the opposite way. And the reason is you're not going to get around on a fastball if you're guessing fastball and he keeps throwing you changeups. You got to let the ball get deeper into the strike zone and go the opposite way. How did the Guardians win their last game? You take a look at Brennan's double. You take a look at Rocchio's hit. You take a look at what they were doing, and they were hitting the ball the opposite way. That's what the Guardians were doing in the first half of the season. It's like, I don't know where this thing comes from that they're being overly aggressive at the plate, but it's got to stop. So Josh Naylor and then John Kenzie Noel, Andres Jimenez, who's now down to the 7 hole.
Chicks take the long ball.
Yeah, Tyler Freeman, who is playing shortstop. God help us. Is he a center fielder? Is he a shortstop?
Can we get Morgan Freeman to come in and play?
Maybe they can pull Jose Oquendo out of fucking retirement so he can play all 9 positions again.
Is it a furniture wax or is it a dessert topping? I mean, Tyler Freeman, I don't know what. And then who's catching? Austin Hedges.
Wow.
I thought Austin Hedges only caught Carlos Carrasco. Well, nope. Now he's catching Ben Lively. Got to win these games, man. Got to win these games.
Who do the Browns play next in preseason?
The Vikings.
The Minnesota Vikings. So where is Tony the Cat?
They got Sam Darnold. Didn't Sam Darnold start in?
Yeah, big forehead.
Oh
God. All right. So I am officially done, and I've gone over. So you've gotten bonus Moohead.
Bonus Moohead. Oh my God.
Hey, that's 2 shows in a row, isn't it?
Yeah, right. I mean, I was missing shows earlier because it was like there wasn't anything to say at all.
Going on. You didn't miss anything.
But this is great. This is like the good old days. Football season's around the corner, and there's Brian, and there's Bronk, and there's Steven, and more people. You're all welcome to come into the chat and be part of the show. We are not discerning. You come in and you say your piece.
Not discerning.
Yeah.
Hey, Rick should be happy about all the baseball talk.
Hey, Mr. Muda, you ever thought about streaming during the games, like live about?
He did that.
Reaction?
Oh, I did.
He did that years ago, but when you were a young whippersnapper and
yeah. And when I stopped is when I had to take a piss. I was in Vermont at the time, and I had to take a piss. And when I went up and because I didn't have a bathroom in the goddamn basement, which I should have done when the place was built, but I was a knucklehead. And so I ran upstairs to take a piss. By the time I come back, the Browns returned the kickoff 98 yards for a touchdown. And so from then on,
never happen again.
The rest of the season, on every kickoff, people would be in the chat room saying, take a piss. Go take a piss, Moohead. We need some points. God only knows. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I appreciate it. And let's enjoy the Guardians game and hope that we can stay in first place.
How is that possible?
Win number 70 for the Guardians today.
So that's it.
Steven, I hope you're not betting on the Guardians and they're over and under of wins. Just don't do it.
I'm leaving now.
Unless you're betting the under.
Boys, I'm leaving. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. And until next time, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads. Good night.
Bye.